Hi, this is David Penzer with WCW and TNA, and you are watching Wrestling with Regret with the Z-Man, Brian Zane.
It goes without saying, it's very difficult to break into professional wrestling. There's a time spent getting in shape, learning how to bump, how to sell, how to make it all look good in the ring. It's not something just anybody can do, and that's if you're a fully able-bodied individual. Over the years, I've had fans ask me about the challenges one would face becoming a wrestler if they had a physical disability, but I can tell you from what I've seen, it's not as big a hurdle as you might think. I've met wrestlers who are legally blind, missing fingers, missing legs, even a wrestler whose arm was paralyzed due to a childhood stroke. The point is, if you're willing to put in the work, nothing can stop you from achieving your goals in the ring. And while wrestling with a disability is certainly possible and commendable, it rarely leads to mainstream success, especially in the land of the giants. Case in point, Zack Gowen. Zack Gowen is credited for being the first one-legged wrestler in the business and one of the industry's most inspiring stories. After losing his leg to cancer at the age of 8, Gowen eventually followed his dream to wrestle and trained under the tutelage of future Ring of Honor manager Truth Martini. After less than a year in the business, he got signed at WWE and was thrust into a top-level storyline on the SmackDown brand, rubbing elbows with guys like Vince McMahon, Hulk Hogan, and Roddy Piper. But in one of the biggest games of which of these things is not like the other in history, Gowen really had no right to be in the position he was given for as long as he was, and that's just from the eyeball test. But there were several other factors that led to his time in the company coming to an ugly end, and only some of them were his fault. This week we're taking a closer look at the era of Zack Gowen in WWE. Our story begins in TNA at the start of 2003. With only about 8 months of experience under his belt, Gowen was given an opportunity in Nashville, thanks to his unique look and his ability to work an exciting style in spite of his disability. As Tenacious Z, his dart match with Truth Martini wowed the audience and became the stuff of legend, though it has never been seen by anyone who wasn't there live. He would go on to wrestle a pair of televised matches for the company that February, one of which ended in a pinfall victory over B.G. James. Embarrassing? Yes, but still better than working for World Wrestling All-Stars. It wasn't long before WWE caught wind of an impressive one-legged wrestler who was captivating the hearts and minds of fans everywhere. Within days of that TNA taping, the company got their man. Oh no. That guy is Steve Chamberlain, a Florida wrestler who was definitely not Zack Gowen. Yes, he only had one leg, though Steve lost his in a motorcycle accident back in 1999, not from cancer. He was also older, taller, and weighed more than the wrestler WWE actually wanted to get. But hey, to Johnny Ace, a one-legged wrestler is a one-legged wrestler. What's the big deal? After the initial confusion, Chamberlain's contract offer was rescinded and Gowen officially got signed away from TNA's clutches. WWE took advantage of this historic signing by letting him sit on his couch for months. The element of surprise, that's what brings the fans in. He could show up at any time, you just don't know. But whatever the company had planned to do with young Gowen, those plans changed when they learned that WWE Magazine was set to publish a story about him before he debuted. In an effort to fix this problem of the left hand not knowing what the right one was doing, the company yanked a 20-year-old kid off his couch and dropped him into the front row of an episode of SmackDown in May. Over on the blue brand, Vince McMahon, Roddy Piper, and his protege Sean O'Haire were feuding with Mr. America, aka Hulk Hogan in a mask. Hersha! The whole storyline was dumb already, so why not throw an unexperienced stick figure into the gumbo? On an edition of Piper's Pit that saw Piper and O'Haire lay into Mr. America, Gowen, wearing a Mr. America shirt, jumped the barricade and attacked the heels with an American flag. By God, the symbolism! Gowen was immediately disposed of. The reactions by Piper and O'Haire were some of the best and most memorable parts of the whole segment. That was the worst leg drop I've ever seen. According to the storyline, Zack was a Make-A-Wish child who was visited by Hulk Hogan after losing his leg. He grew up wanting to be a wrestler just like Hogan and only recently became a fan of Mr. America out of coincidence, I guess? Seriously, this angle got more contrived with each passing week. Gowen spent the next several weeks tagging along with the America stir in his wars against Piper and Vince McMahon, but he was also used as a pawn in the heels games as well. Just look at how he was toyed with by McMahon's not-so-secret lover, Sable, and get a load of that stellar acting.
Let me hear you yell my name.
God, I want you.
Let me hear you yell my name, Zack.
Sable.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, I want it. Sable. But Sable's seduction was just a ruse to embarrass Zack. After Vince stormed in and Zack ran off about as fast as one could with both a limp and a case of blue balls, McMahon and the future Mrs. Lesnar had a bit of fun at Gowen's expense.
Hold the phone. I've got wood. Oh, wait a minute. It's just my leg.
Right around this time, Roddy Piper, one of the principal heels in this silliness, was fired from WWE after some incendiary comments were made public in an HBO interview. Just days later, Hulk Hogan, the principal face in the angle, quit the company over disagreements with creative direction, torpedoing the planned rematch between he and Vince for SummerSlam. Oopsie! So Hogan's gone, meaning Gowen no longer has his hero watching his back. Piper's gone, making Sean O'Hare practically irrelevant. So who do you have left in this storyline? Zack Gowen and Vince McMahon, two people who A, don't wrestle that often, and B, let's be honest, comparing their personalities, Zack's cannot nearly compete with that of Vince's. So how do we salvage this angle? I know, let's get Stephanie McMahon and her giant breasts on board. Stephanie, the SmackDown GM, was initially a tertiary character in this storyline, but was thrust into the role of a key player as her feud with her father intensified. This elevated role in the Zack Gowen angle was a burden I'm sure Steph had a hard time accepting. In an underdog story so absurd it would make Rey Mysterio circa 2006 blush, Zack and Stephanie were forced into a handicap match with The Big Show, where Gowen would earn a WWE contract if he won. Thanks to assistance from Kurt Angle and Brock Lesnar, the Tenacious One defied the odds and pushed Show away with a moonsault. But Gowen went out of the frying pan and into the fire, as Vince announced that his first official opponent as a WWE superstar, well, okay, obviously not his first, I mean he was under contract IRL at this point, was going to be Mr. McMahon himself. The two waged war at the Vengeance pay-per-view that July. In a competitive brawl that saw McMahon bleed buckets, the villainous CEO ultimately defeated Gowen in the match. This gave Vince all the preparation he needed to choke the life out of his daughter later that year. A natural progression if ever there was one. After his loss to McMahon, Gowen seemed to be headed toward a feud with Matt Hardy version 1, until a recently re-heeled Brock Lesnar wanted to show how much of a callous monster he could be. In his home state of Michigan and in front of his own mother, Gowen was put in a match with the next big thing and was promptly murdered to death. Then again 2 weeks later after being pushed down a flight of stairs by Lesnar. Jesus, that was gruesome. What say you, Internet? In October of 2003, Gowen had healed up from his two hellacious Lesnar beatings just in time to resume his angle with V1. Things culminated at the No Mercy pay-per-view when Zack Gowen beat Hardy clean with the moonsault. This was the first, last, and only time in WWE he had pinned somebody with zero outside assistance. Forget that table spot, it was the repressed memories of this loss that caused Matt Hardy to go broken. Gowen was taken off of TV due to an injury shortly after the pay-per-view, but by this point he had become a locker room pariah. By his own admission, Gowen had developed an ego of ungodly proportions, the unfortunate byproduct of what happens when a 20-year-old kid is signed and inserted into a main event storyline that includes punching Vince McMahon in the face and making out with Sable. His terrible attitude backstage and his unwillingness to improve himself in developmental was a woeful combination, and soon after, he found himself released. Being fired from WWE deeply affected Gowen. After being given so much so soon, then having it taken away in an instant, Zack fell into a deep depression and lived a life of addiction, finding solace in drugs and alcohol. But this story does have a happy ending, as he eventually went to rehab that was paid for by WWE and now lives a clean and sober life. He still works in the indies, teaming with his partner Gregory Iron, a man who lives with cerebral palsy. Together, they're known as the Handicapped Heroes. He gives motivational speeches around the country and even recently took part in American Ninja Warrior. Truly, Zack's story is an inspiring one. That being said, his time in WWE was bad. No doubt, WWE gets a lot of the blame for this dumpster fire of a run. They scooped up Gowen practically sight unseen just to stick it to TNA and promote the fact that they had a one-legged wrestler on the roster and TNA didn't, for about 10 years. His presence in the main event scene made everyone around him look foolish no matter what they did. This would happen again years later with about the same result. But make no mistake, things could have gone a lot better for Zack had he been more mature and respectful to those around him, or at least gone to the gym. If he had a build like his and 2 legs, Zack wouldn't have even been a blip on the company's radar. But his disability allowed WWE to overlook that flaw for a time. With a beanpole physique, nothing he did looked convincing or believable, which is why his victories over guys like The Big Show and Matt Hardy were so stunning. Someone eventually had to bite the bullet and take that first clean loss, but it took eons for Hardy to recover from it. If Gowen had a build like, say, the guy they almost hired instead of him, things might have been different. But in the land of the Giants, it was impossible to take him seriously with a body that made Colin Delaney look like Flex Wheeler. Zack Gowen is a shining example of what happens when you persevere through life's challenges, and his opportunity in WWE was an amazing story on paper, but the story was in serious need of proofreading before it had any right to be published. Be sure to thumbs up this video if you like it, comment below, subscribe to Wrestling with Regret, and buy the t-shirts at ProWrestlingTees.com. I'm Brian Zane, and I'll see you next time.
It's my life, and it's now or never. Ain't gonna live forever. Just wanna live while I'm alive. It's my life, my heart's an open highway. Frank said he did.